to Monster Men.
Arr! There you go. Arr! Thanks everybody for coming. Alright. As you all know, I wrote this book called The Montauk Monster, and you think this is a work of complete fiction, but there's so much truth in this book, it's actually kind of scary. I'm going to go through why I came to the idea of doing The Montauk Monster, the very origins of my obsession with monsters, and how we settled on this book with my editor, and the true story behind The Montauk Monster. So, like any Monster Men episode, where Jack and I have almost no preparation whatsoever, I haven't even shown Jack any of the pictures that I put on. So he's going to react to them, you know, like it's brand new. All right, let me start. I got my obsession with horror and monsters and ghosts and sea monsters and things because of one man. Anyone know who that is? I know you don't, you're only 11. That's Leonard Nimoy. Spock. You know why? Because he used to do a show that was the greatest show ever, In Search Of. In Search Of was the greatest and scariest, creepiest show on earth because it looked like it was shot on film that they found near the Blair Witch Project, and they would talk about ghosts and Bigfoot. Well, you can see I like Bigfoot and all kinds of cool stuff. So that got my obsession with the monsters.
And I, growing up the same time as him, also loved this show. And part of it for me was that if Spock told me that there was a Bigfoot, I believed him.
Yeah, logically.
There's clout.
You can't deny logic.
It is logical.
It's funny, now, we only met in our 30s. We used to work together. And it turned out that we grew up the same, almost the exact same way, except we love monsters and we love horror movies and scary stuff and everything. I mean, brother from another mother. That's what I've been calling him for years. So that's where the start came from, where my love of monsters came from there. I've been writing about monsters for years. In fact, it made such an impression on me and my sister. That's not really us.
Stock photography.
If you Google 70s kids, that's what you get.
That picture came with a picture frame.
You know, that expression is pretty much my expression as a kid. And
That's you.
It's not, but it looks like me. And that looks like my sister, doesn't that?
Damien, I did it for you.
A little bit like you, right? All right. I'm wearing a Bigfoot shirt. For years, I didn't believe... Bigfoot scared me, like the Patterson films scared me, and the concept of like something living in the woods kind of frightened me.
The Patterson film, for everybody who's not a nerd,
Patterson-Gimlin film,
is that famous footage of Bigfoot walking through the forest.
A female Bigfoot.
The Patterson film. Whoa, the Patterson-Gilman film.
As I've gotten older, I've gotten this fascination with Bigfoot. I don't know why all of a sudden I think that Bigfoot actually exists. I recently drove through Pennsylvania, like, not Pennsylvania like the Poconos, but real Pennsylvania, where like you could break down and never be seen again because people are going to drag you in and have a pig roast and you're the pig.
You got a birdie mount in Pennsylvania.
Exactly. And there was like parts where I'm like, so many woods and mountains, I'm like, yeah, someone could absolutely live here and nobody would ever know that it was there. This picture, I don't know if you can tell, this is the only supposed picture of a skunk ape. A skunk ape is a Bigfoot from the Everglades.
Florida, Bigfoot. Get her done.
Get her done. They call them skunk apes because they look like apes and they stink like skunks.
Olivia?
I've been calling a friend of my kids a skunk ape since I met her. This is the first ever and only picture of supposedly a skunk ape. I was so impressed by the idea of a skunk ape that one day my editor at another publisher called me. I was watching the show Bar Rescue. You ever watch that show? This is the greatest show ever. I love watching bars get rescued for some reason. I couldn't sleep. I'm watching Bar Rescue, and then he calls me up. He emails me, and he says, "I'm looking. Do you have like a book laying around, something about a monster or a Bigfoot or something?" I was like, all I wanted to do was go to sleep because I had to work the next day. And I was like, yeah, I could do a book on like a skunk ape. And he was like, sounds like a great idea. He says, tell me what you think. And we emailed each other back and forth for like an hour. And in that hour, I devised this tale about skunk apes in the Everglades swamps and criminals stealing airboats and stranding people in the middle of the Everglades. And that book became Swamp Monster Massacre, which was, to date, it's been the biggest book that I've written as far as people buy this book like mad.
It's usually the book I tell people to start with him. It's a very good starter book. And there are just classic Hunter Shea moments in this book.
I guarantee you there are scenes you will never forget.
You'll laugh, you'll cringe, you'll cry. You'll tell your friends.
All my friends are in that book too, so everybody in that I do horrible things to is in that book. So this book was out, this came out in 2012, and it's still selling like crazy because for some Bigfoot people love books about Bigfoot, especially killer Bigfoots. And nobody loves skunk apes like I do. So this was out there, and an editor, an email comes to me, some guy says, I loaded up 1,000 ebooks on my e-reader, and I was looking for new talent, and yours is the only book that I finished. And I was like, look at him like, whatever. So I just ignored it. He wrote back to me again, and he was like, no, I'm really serious. He goes, I really like your voice. I like the idea. I like the fact that you're into like B-movie monsters and stuff. He says, do you want to do a book for me? And I was like, what's your name? Who are you from? And then he gave it back to me. I Googled him and everything.
It wasn't me messing with you.
Well, the funny thing was there were two guys with his name. One guy was a prisoner who had a Goodreads account, and one guy was the editor. So I didn't know which one I was talking to. Eventually, I figured out it was the editor of the publishing house, and he said, "I want to do a couple of books with you." He goes, "We both love monster movies, especially like all those junky monster movies from the 50s and 60s with the rubber suits and all that stuff. We love that." So he said, "Let's do a book together." And he said, "Give me what you want to do." I was like, "Oh my God. All right." Looking at I have an encyclopedia of monsters. I have my myth encyclopedia. You've seen them.
He's the most complete collection of monster, not just like storybooks, but like encyclopedia reference materials. Like Buffy the Vampire Slayer would go to his house to do research.
I could be. Who was the guy who was Buffy? Was he the Watcher?
Yes.
Was he the
You're
Watcher? I
Giles.
could be Giles, the Watcher.
I'd be Xander.
So I thought about. Hi, Mary. I thought about a relatively new monster that I've been obsessed with since I saw the picture, and they happen out in Long Island. They're called Montauk Monsters. Has anyone ever heard of the Montauk Monster? You get this? There's pictures. This came about in 2008. Oh wait, that's a skunk.
1841.
That's the famous picture of the Montauk Monster. That
These
came out.
things. I have. Okay, I didn't think I'd heard of him, but I have.
This was the first picture taken by a girl. It was 2008. She was at Ditch Plains Beach out there on the end of Long Island, and there was a bunch of people standing around this body, and she wanted to see, what's going on with this body over here. She took a picture of this, and then the body disappeared within the hour. The tide didn't come out. They checked the tide tables. Nobody knows who took the body.
Shane took it to a pig roast.
He probably did. Here's the funny thing. A lot of people say that this picture and this picture are one and the same animal. Does that look even remotely the same?
Holy bloated.
Exactly. This thing is, I don't know if you can tell it, it's blue. It's got a really bizarre face.
It looks like me before and after the buffet.
If you see this picture, it might look like some sort of pig or something, but it's got this weird curved beak for a snout, and the
That's
hands,
not a pig.
it's got fingers. It's just bizarre looking.
There's no hair on his chinny chin chin.
I mean, another picture of a Montauk Monster. There's this thing.
Oh, God, that's got hair on it.
It's funny. They call Montauk Monsters now any kind of thing that washes up on a beach. It could be a beach in Chile and it's a Montauk Monster. It has nothing to do with the town of Montauk. Here's the strangest one of all. This thing,
Okay, I'm gonna put this out.
I don't know what this is. This looks like E.T. was like skinned and thrown on a rock.
Imagine looking at that upside down.
It's really disgusting, but it's classified as a Montauk Monster because they say it's weird, it's an animal, it washed up on the beach, we don't know what it is. It's not in there. In fact, I tried to put this in here, this particular creature in this book, and my editor was like, it doesn't match anything else, so I had to kind of take it out. This is the beach where the very first one was found. It's Ditch Plains Beach out in you probably have been there, Tony. Yeah.
I have a
nice
friend on
beach.
vacation in Montauk right now.
You know what's funny? I've had people in Montauk reading the book and like twittering me and stuff. Like going, I'm in Montauk reading the book on the beach.
I want to take a picture of them with the book.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
So
Call the topic.
2008, it became a big deal. This woman took pictures. It went on local news. It went on CNN. It went to Fox News. It just exploded. It was when the internet was getting that kind of craze where you can put something on there and it just goes all over. It goes viral.
On Fox News, they blamed Obama for it.
Obama! The person who coined the term Montauk Monster is this guy here, Lauren Coleman. You'll see him. He's on Monster Hunters, Ancient Aliens. He's
Christopher Lee's stunt double.
He could be. I'll get back to him in a minute. But this is the guy who coined the term the Montauk Monster.
Is this the museum guy?
This is the museum. We're going to get to the museum, exactly. So he's the guy who called it the Montauk Monster. He came up. He lives in Portland, Maine. He came down, and he looked at the pictures. He talked to the people who were there. He looked at the beach and everything, and he kind of made a determination, which I'll get to later.
Where did he come up with the name like Montauk Monster? It's brilliant.
He was in Montauk, and it was a
And it was
monster.
a Brilliant!
When I was doing the book, I had the idea. I said, all right, I got Montauk Monsters. I got monsters. This is cool. It's Long Island. I could go to Long Island. I could go to Montauk. I have a reason to go take the kids and the wife and have fun in Montauk and investigate and put it on my taxes as like, you know, a write-off. So we went out there, and I said, all right, I got monsters, but I need something else. And the more I looked into the Montauk Monster and Long Island, the more weird, real stuff that I found. Now, Montauk is at the end of Long Island. Like a mile off there is Plum Island. You see it? Sometimes they call it Pork Chop Island because it kind of looks like a pork chop.
Pork chops.
Plum Island is the home to the Animal Disease Center.
They mention it in Silence of the Lambs. Plum Island Animal Disease.
Yeah, and it's been around since the 50s, the Disease Center. The Disease Center is supposedly responsible for letting loose Lyme disease and encephalitis that the mosquitoes had, came out of Plum Island, because if you've noticed, they've affected the area that's just right off of the coast of Plum Island.
It's also responsible for twerking.
Twerking came out of there? Jeez, God, they're so irresponsible.
It's the best thing that actually came out of it.
This lab was designed to cure things initially like...
What in the hell is that?
Well, I went to Epstein's over there. This is the tongue sandwich. Before they carved it up. This is actually hoof and mouth disease, which is... when they first created the center, it was to find these animal diseases and find cures for them, and also hold on to those diseases so you had a repository for them. So if they showed up anywhere else in the future, you had a cure, you had a way to
If you
fight
have a
it.
Plum Island card, you could borrow them and bring them
I
back
would
to
like
us.
hoof and mouth, please. I have someone I don't like. I'd like the extra large with a drink.
It was a noble endeavor. They want to cure animal diseases. However, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Project Paperclip. Project Paperclip is where, during World War II and afterwards, the U.S. government gave Nazi lunatic scientists free reign to come to this country. They absolved them of their sins, and they said, you can come here to America, and you can do anything you want, as long as you're within our confines here and you're working on something for us.
This sounds like a Captain America plot.
It kind of does. Winter Soldier. Because of Project Paperclip, this Nazi scientist, Eric Traub, came over, and they put him in charge of Plum Island. Now, Eric Traub's thing was about, his specialty was chemical warfare. And what he wanted to do was find the cause of the disease and find a way to infiltrate it in warring countries, to break them so you don't need to really invade. So his idea was to flood a country with the disease, destroy their crops, weaken the people, weaken the economy, and just walk right in and you can take it over. So that's how Plum Island operated for about 25, 30 years.
So how far is that from here?
From here,
About like 100
Without traffic?
Well, if you're going out to the Hamptons,
the crow flies. It is 2.5, 3 hours, right around there.
So all this is going on like closer than Boston.
This is closer to Connecticut than it is to here right now, by the waterways. Yeah.
Beware.
So yeah, we had a Nazi here who was taking these deadly diseases and trying to find ways to cure them, but on another way, how can we take these diseases and militarize them?
Weaponized.
Right.
That's a great word.
Weaponized, militarized.
Use that in your next book.
I think I used it in here somewhere. So that was his job. He spent many years trying to do this, and other people took over for him. The problem is, this is a government-run facility, and we know how well the government runs things. It has been run into the ground. It was so bad that they had to shut one of the labs down because everything got out into the air. The island is full of feral cats. The cats were loaded with it. They were burning cattle by the dozens to try to get rid of the stuff that was everywhere. So a lot of times on Plum Island, especially in the late 90s and the early 2000s, you just see tons of black smoke as they're just trying to burn everything that was in there because they're like, everything's infected. They have no concept of how to keep these things under control.
Except they have wonderful plums.
It is known as Plum Island because it did have plums.
Oh my.
I would not eat a plum on Plum Island right now.
And in Christmas, they have sugar plums. But the sugar is anthrax!
Right now, the EPA is trying to figure out what to do with the island. They wanted to repurpose the island as
Condos.
probably condos. But they're like, this place is so toxic, we don't know what to do with it. The groundwater is, every aspect of that island is diseased. So they don't know what to do with it. Supposedly, there's one lab that's still in operation there. It's run by the, who are the guys who took over after 9/11? The government agency that took over.
Cohen Brothers?
Not FEMA, no.
Homeland Security.
Homeland Security. Thank you.
CTU?
Homeland Security now runs Plum Island. I know some guys in Homeland Security. I'm not too confident in their ability to run this island.
The U.S. Postal Service should take it.
Nothing will come off of it.
The encephalitis is late.
They moved a lot of the stuff to Kansas City, so don't go to Kansas. Why would you take everything and move it to a hurricane area?
That's where Sharknadoes came from.
So that was Eric's job. So I started to think, okay, and I'm not new at this because a lot of people in Long Island think that Plum Island is responsible for a lot of weird stuff, and people have said, we think these things came off the island. So I started thinking, yeah, you're right. You know, they're doing stuff with animals. They've got a Nazi who likes to do stuff with animals.
Ewoks also came from Plum Island.
I wish Ewoks stayed on
They were
Plum
experimenting with Wookiees.
Island. Ewoks ruined Star Wars. So I wanted to find out really what the story was about this. So that guy, Lauren Coleman, I told you about, I went to find him. Luckily, I go to vacation to Maine every year, and he was only 40 minutes away. He has a cryptozoology museum up in Portland, Maine that, Mike, when you go, you have to stop. Hey, Gary. You have to go to the Cryptozoology Museum. It's kind of hard to find, but when you're in there, it's every strange animal, story, myth that you've ever heard is all contained in this little museum.
He should buy Plum Island.
I don't think he has enough money. Despite the fact that he's on TV all the time, he's also standing there waiting for someone to come in, and he'll just, like, after a while, like, Lauren, kind of go away from me. I just want to go look at stuff.
Don't you want to see the skunk apes?
Oh, yeah. So I went with my daughters. Remember how hard it was to find?
Yeah.
Where we went in there, and it's just I don't even know what that was. Was that the Jersey Devil?
No, that wasn't the Jersey Devil.
I
It
think
was
it was-
too big.
That's Toucan Sam.
I don't know what that was. You tried to kiss it. I remember that.
I remember. Too short.
So we went there. Here's me and Lauren, BFFs. We took a picture in front of a giant Bigfoot. His claim to fame is he has the biggest fake Bigfoot ever.
BFFs is Bigfoot forever.
So we were talking, and I told him this was last summer. I said, I'm writing a book about the Montauk Monster. And he was like, oh, I invented that name. I was like, oh, good. Don't sue me. So we started talking about the Montauk Monster, and he gave us a tour of the museum. He has a replica of the Montauk Monster. It's hard to see because it was behind glass. But he does have a display of the Montauk Monster in the museum, and I think he has a book that mentions he has like 30 books out. And one of them mentions the Montauk Monster. It kind of looks like, I don't know, like a jelly roll.
It looks like beef jerky.
Beef jerky is good. I couldn't tell what that was. This is what everybody said, well, not everybody, but his conclusion and other professionals said the Montauk Monsters are a raccoon. Now this is a picture of the raccoon superimposed over the Montauk Monster body. And I asked him, I said, what did you think that thing was? He says, this is how he says it, he goes, oh, it was a raccoon. So I don't know. I'm like, he said it's a raccoon, but his face said different.
Yeah.
I don't know what those things are, and he doesn't know what those things are. And the funny thing about them is they wash up when there's places of research labs. So you'll see these creatures all around the world. They'll wash up. They've washed up in Panama, and down in Florida and California and in places in Russia, and it's always near places that have animal research facilities.
Now, I'm no animal expert. Are there like raccoons all over the world? Are they indigenous?
That's a good question. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say they can't be everywhere. Not like a squirrel. Squirrels are everywhere.
So then, perhaps it's not raccoons washing up Chile.
I don't think it's a raccoon. I mean, take a look at that.
I don't think it's a raccoon either.
And we're going to go back. Does that look like a raccoon to you? I mean, we all live in Yonkers. We see raccoons all the time. That doesn't look like a raccoon to me. So that's literally, that's the real stuff that's going on out there, and nobody has any answers to it. So I just tried to make my own answers to it in this book, and ratchet up the action, the violence, the gore, the horror. And that's it. That's the story of the Montauk Monster.
Are they
Yes.
actually Nazi raccoons?
Do you think they could be a mix of animals? Because when I was drawing it, the face was definitely snapping turtle-esque.
Yes.
Because it's very beak and the teeth. And
You know what? You didn't read this book. That's right.
No.
I do think they're a mix of animals. I do think that they're playing around with genetics out there.
Yeah.
So my whole thesis, if I was a professor, was that they're genetic combinants of different animals. And they either got away or they just, dropped dead. They just threw them in the water instead of incinerating them.
That's your topic for your next book now.
Exactly. Well, my idea was they didn't get away and they didn't wash up. They kind of all came here. The funny thing was when I first had the idea for this book, I said, yeah, I'll do one Montauk Monster and it will go, around the town. And my editor goes, how about 100 Montauk Monsters? I said, all right, I'll do 100, whatever. So I have the whole town of Montauk as being beset by these things, and they're all alive. None of them are washing up dead. People wash up dead, but not the Montauk Monsters. And there's a little extra stuff in there that I have to weaponize them.
Good work.
Thank you very much. So it's a fun book, but the truth is even stranger than anything I could have written, actually. If you look even deeper, it's even stranger with the Nazi stuff that went on there. It's kind of scary.
You have described this as possibly your best book you've written so far.
I say that about every book. No, really, you know what? This was actually a lot of fun to write because I never did one that had a kernel of truth.
Wasn't this voted like best summer read?
Publishers Weekly said it's the best read of the summer. It's been voted the best beach read of the summer by a lot of other places. So.
By the New York Times?
And you
The New
own
York-
Publisher Weekly, right?
Yes, I own Publishers Weekly. I wish I did. I can't even afford a subscription to Publishers Weekly. It's like $190 per year. So that's it. Anyone have any questions? Anyone want a Montauk Monster as a pet?
I do.
You do? Yeah, all right, I'll get some.
Can you domesticate them?
Yes, you can.
What are the leash laws?
It will turn out like Planet of the Apes if you try to domesticate it.
Can they breathe underwater?
It's like Tyson.
You know what I would think not, since they always wash them.
They think they can.
Yeah. Ah, Lord, it looks like nothing. I'll just skate along here, and then they just drown.
We could not figure that part out.
Yes.
Did you have to get permission from Mr.
No. Well, as Lauren Coleman told me, he says, I come up with names and everybody just takes the names and runs with it.
Okay.
So he doesn't care.
So you didn't have to like sign a waiver or agree to.
He
get
didn't
what
trade. He
percentage
didn't
of
trademark it.
Oh.
When I go up to his museum, I will give him a copy and I'll say, put this next to your beef jerky Montauk Monster, and we'll all be happy.
Actually, bring a stack and say start selling them.
Exactly, the way he sells his own
Absolutely, give
books.
him a whole box.
Did you see anything in there that inspire you for another book?
Everything I saw in there inspired me. I'm serious. It's a small museum. What do you say, girls? It's like maybe from where everyone's
it's-
standing in the back here to back here.
But you know what?
But it's loaded with stuff.
Yeah, there's like little hallways because of all
Yeah.
the shelves and
What's
stuff.
the
Very
creepiest thing you
cramped.
saw there?
For me,
The
well, they had
Nazi running the gift shop.
he had the Fiji mermaid there. P.T. Barnum used to showcase this fake mermaid. It was a bottom, and the top said looked like a woman. It looked like the tan woman from Something About Mary.
Oh my God.
Kind of looked like half of her. But the creepiest thing I think I saw in there was the Dober demon, which was this. It happened in Massachusetts in the late 70s, where everybody was seeing this big-headed, like an alien, what you would call a gray alien, but people were seeing it before anyone knew what gray aliens were. To me, that was the creepiest thing, because it happened at night over a period of just 2 days. And that was one of the first things he investigated when he was an official cryptozoologist.
What he had a mark got complete or?
Yeah, I mean all of it, because nobody can prove any of this stuff exists. So everything he had, but he did have like plaster casts of Bigfoot and stuff like that. So he had like glass cases of all actual plaster casts of Bigfoot and hair of Bigfoot. Who knows what it is? Could be hair of a goat, for all we know. But yeah, the place was just loaded with stuff. In fact, when I go again next month, I'm gonna be spending a lot of time there. It's like walking in like Grandpa's attic, and he's got a lot of junk around. But it was, for me, it was cool, and he was doing pretty good business. And he sticks to your side because he's like, it's kind of like buy one of my books. Please buy one of my books.
And the gift shop is over here.
The gift shop's right here. Here's all my books. Please buy one. And a shirt. You want to buy a shirt? He was a really nice guy, though.
Do they have little Montauk Monsters you can take to bed with you?
No. Did he have Bigfoots, though? Did he have stuffed Bigfoots?
I know he had Jersey Devils and Mothman, like the Mothman stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know about.
Seriously, I would like to write something about the Jersey Devil out there in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey. Just so me and my brother-in-law can go out and hang out in Jersey. We drink enough, I'm sure we'll see Jersey Devils everywhere. But the Pine Barrens is a creepy, creepy place.
Yeah.
And that Jersey Devil, that's why they named the hockey team the Devils. It's named after the Jersey Devil.
They actually had a Jersey Devil story time at the library last
Did
night
they?
for the kids. I'm like,
Oh, that's creepy.
Who would bring their child to this?
Well,
And then they had the devil that used to visit the town of the albinos. So there's a back roads that you can
why
take.
does every
where
town have like albinos that are
Well,
angry
there's
people?
there's like a backwoods albino like village that's back that we used to drive to sometimes and see.
Staying in the shade.
You'd have to go at night.
But yeah, I think one of the things I definitely want to do is the Jersey. I want to investigate it though. I want to actually go out there. Have you ever heard of the Jersey Devil? Like what it is? It's like, what was it? The 13th child that was cursed of somebody and came out with cloven hooves and wings. And
It's like a winged horse chicken thing or something.
Yeah, it's the bottom of a goat, the wings of a bat.
Eye of newt.
Tail of lemur. So yeah, I definitely want to check that out one day. I love monsters, real and. It's funny. I could create monsters, but I'm more fascinated by real ones and just finding out what the truth is behind them, and then forgetting the truth and doing my own thing. But that's me, and that's him too. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Grr, arg.